So once the shape had been cut, the stonecutter would then sketch out a death's head in this area, which we call a tympanum or lunette. They would then draw out the borders, which surround the epitaph in the center. Now, each stonecutter had a unique style, which they repeated over and over again. So I doubt that preliminary sketches were made unless it was for a custom piece. For a writing tool, they probably would have used a piece of white chalk made from the clay of tobacco pipes. And they probably started, William Codner, if he had this piece in front of him, I expect him to start with kind of like the outline, just like this. And then you do the other end. And they weren't perfect. I don't think they used a compass to do it perfectly. If you look at how they were cut, they're very crude. Now, one of the things that makes Codner's style unique is this little indent he has. It kind of comes down and up, down, and then over again to form a little bit of almost looks like a wave that's cresting over the shoulder of the grave. He then would draw a skull, which was pretty much a fist size, a little more than a fist. And it would even come down, taper down, kind of like that. Comes down, comes over, probably about like there. Comes up, and then bulges out, just like that. Something like this, maybe up a little bit more. And if he had to, he'd probably have like a damp rag or just kind of smudge it away. The top part for the mouth would be kind of a straight line, like so. Again, I don't think rulers were used for this. He then had a center line for his teeth. And then he had like a little part for a chin, kind of like so. And usually there's about 5 or 6 teeth. So let's give ourselves some teeth marks. And then they would always be alternating, just like that. And again, I don't think he labored upon this, like he did it so many times. Then he came over, it almost looks like a little mustache, like that. And then he had a kind of like a triangle above it, like so. And then he always would have like these really high lines, just like that. And kind of bulge down a little bit and then come out. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but kind of something like that. And then, of course, the eyes. And Codner's eyes always looked very surprised. Some looked really like mean. Others, like Codner's, looked kind of something like this, very like wide-eyed, almost like shocked at death or something. Okay, so then he would draw the feathers. And again, every stonecutter had a different style of feathers. Codner's were friendly. They almost looked like little dog ears. They'd kind of come over, and then they'd always end, kind of curling down. And the bottom feather would be the biggest, probably something like this. And then maybe even more like that. And then he would come in with another one, which would then taper down like that. And then he would come down maybe like this, and then maybe like this, and then maybe like this, and kind of dwindling down. And with every feather, he would have a center line, like that. And maybe he indicated it by dashes to keep things a little bit easier to read. as you're cutting this, so you don't get lost in the lines. And I don't think he would have labored on this. Like, he wasn't trying to do like this beautiful piece. I mean, these feathers were not, perfectly curved and whatnot. And then for the last part of the wings, he would have these crescent moons like this. 3, 4, and then maybe 5. And these would be kind of like the tongues of the death's head, kind of like that. And they rippled downwards. They kind of gave the wings like a little bit of a flurrying motion. And again, they got smaller and smaller until it was finally like, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one would be like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one would be 3. This one would be 2. This one would be 1. All right, so let's do the other side. Again, dog ears, kind of comes up and then kind of drops down and then again curls into that little area there and gets thicker and maybe gets a little thicker. Like so, not bad. Not bad. Hits the top of that epitaph like that. How many feathers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think we got it. Not bad. All right. So you get the main part of the wing, and let's get the center mark on there. Just like that. And then he would have done those crescent moons, to give that flourishing look. So there's 1. Let's give ourselves another 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. Let's give ourselves 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe these could be separated down. So I'm going to erase that down. I think they're a little close. They do kind of, if you look at them, they kind of go like this. Maybe I'm going to do that again. Yeah, because they kind of come down 1. Maybe that's how he did it. Kind of came down like that to give themselves the area where the crescent moon was. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one. 1. Yeah, that's probably how he did it. Not bad. Oops, this one's 2. And then 1. And there you go. That's like a basic. And if you wanted to, he could have kind of really, once he had the searching lines, what you call them in the drawing world, go back in and just really highlight them once you're confident in where you want them to go. So once Codner had drawn the death's head, he would then move on to filling in the borders. Codner's style typically had a little disc at the top of his borders, which is called a finial, this area. And they were kind of like little circles, receding circles like that, almost like a little target. And I don't think he used a compass for this. I mean, if you look at how they are carved, they are very, I don't want to say crudely carved, but they're certainly not precise little circles. They're just quickly, I think, drawn and I think quickly carved. He would then draw in these acanthus leaves, which typically breaks down into kind of 3 different distinct areas. He would typically draw, I think he would start with a sketch like this. He would give himself a little bit of a stem, which then comes down and then curls into itself like that, and then comes up, maybe a little bit down again curls into itself, into a spiral, and then comes down like this. And that was a little too big. Maybe like a little smaller, something like that. And then one more like this. And I probably, yeah, it's not bad. Again, these weren't perfect, so he had like this line that kind of undulated like so. And then he would come back in and he would fill in, give it some muscle, kind of like with these odd leaves. Like if you look at what he did, he almost had like this little weird droopy leaf that kind of had a little part and then like a big tongue part like that. And then there'd be the circle. So the circle would come down into a spiral shape, kind of like that. And then in between, like this, so there'd be this weird shape, melting leaf shape, spiral, and then he had like this three-leafed shape like this. So if we broke it down, and then he would have sometimes like, maybe like some center lines. And then it would continue. He would then go to the bottom part of the border, which again typically had a disc like this finials, and it created a great kind of triangular composition that brings your eye down the grave. So although this was quickly drawn out, I think it gives you an idea of what William Codner's grave would have looked like prior to carving. He would have worked with white chalk. He would have worked quickly, loosely. I don't think he was laboring upon anything. He was just giving himself enough indication lines. And once it was drawn out like this, it was now ready for the next stage, which is carving. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And to support future content, please consider donating to my Patreon, Stones Over Bones.